Ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we will start off with our major top stories and reports. Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources Hani Suhailam stated Thursday that Egypt have invested 106 million Egyptian pounds in the sector in the African continent during the year 2022. More details in this report.
Minister of Irrigation and Water Resources Hani Suhailam stated that Egypt has invested £106 million in the sector in Africa in 2022. The works carried out include the fifth phase of the removal of weeds from African Great Lakes, the second phase of the weed removal at Uganda's Lake Kyoga and Lake Albert, the completion of 7 solar-powered underground water treatment plants in rural areas near the South Sudanese capital of Juba, and kickstarting the first phase of constructing rainwater harvesting dams in the South Sudan's Khorwara region. This is in addition to developing the Egyptian-Sudanese Permanent Technical Authority for Nile Water. With regard to the capacity building of human resources, 228 Arab and African professionals received training at the Minister's Regional Training Center. Further, 2 training courses were delivered to 38 others from 16 African countries in the field of river engineering, sustainable development, and the designing, measurements, operation, and maintenance of water establishments.
Welcome back, and still with our special reports. Egypt's total exports surged 11% year-on-year during the first 11 months of 2022, the Minister of Trade and Industry said. More details.
Egyptian exports jumped to around $32.575 billion in January-November from about $29.405 billion in 2021. Egypt's total exports surged 11% on year during the first 11 months of 2022. According to the official statement on December 29th, Minister of Trade and Industry Ahmed Samir said that the country's total exports were expected to reach around $35 billion by the end of 2022. The minister commended the state's success in the implementation of the program to refund export burdens, adding that 16.7 billion Egyptian pounds were dispersed to export companies in 2022. Meanwhile, a report by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development in December said Egypt has topped African countries regarding services exports in 2021 by around $20 billion. According to the report, which was mentioned by the Cabinet's Information and Decision Support Center, Egypt has also come second in maritime routes in Africa in the third quarter of 2022.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Sameh Shoukry stressed the importance of strengthening and supporting the role of the Egyptian Agency for Partnership and Development as one of the most important development arms of Egypt in Africa and the Commonwealth.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Sameh Shoukry stressed the importance of strengthening and supporting the role of the Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development as one of the most important development arms of Egypt and Africa and the Commonwealth. This came as he chaired a meeting of the Board of Directors, EAPD, where the agency's work, strategy, and executive plans for the fiscal year 2023-2024 were discussed. Ahmed Abu Zaid, spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, noted that the leading role in promoting South-South cooperation in areas related to sustainable development by providing technical support in various fields, capacity building programs to brotherly African countries, as well as humanitarian assistance to countries in need. Abu Zaid revealed that the meeting of the agency Board of Directors witnessed a lengthy discussion of various programs and plans, along with the identification of areas of interest and priority in the agency's programs over the next year in order to ensure the implementation of the priorities and objectives of Egyptian foreign policy in supporting and strengthening relations with African countries. Additionally, the EAPD aims to contribute to strengthening Egypt's efforts in the field of international cooperation, especially South-South cooperation in fields related to sustainable development in African and Islamic countries. The Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development is also working to strengthen South-South and triangular cooperation by supporting priority areas of work for beneficiary countries.
Welcome back. And on the Egyptian exports to Africa, we're glad to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon. How are you?
How are you, sir? Ambassador Bayoumi, Egypt aims to boost exports of goods to Africa to reach $15 billion within the next 5 years. How far could this be fulfilled?
Good news, and we need even more for Africa, because we have a long history with the continent. After all, we are Africans. Many African countries are proud to have some Egyptian origin. I visited, for example, Swaziland, and where by that time the king of Swaziland in his pamphlet mentioned that he has Egyptian origin. I was ambassador in Cameroon, in the west of Africa, and some tribes there, they belong to Egyptian history, and they're still building their houses as the shape of pyramids. So we are there since the Pharaonic time, since Muhammad Ali and the discoveries of the River Nile, since Gamal Abdel Nasser, where he helped all the African leaders and friends to him for the independence. Now we are expanding our efforts in Africa, because we know that it pays to our political, security, economic interest. I think the Egyptian Fund for Development in Africa did a good job. Now we have a whole agency for development in Africa, and we need more and more finance, because the needs are much more than the resources we still have. That's why we have the initiative of our president to address the developed countries and the highly financed countries to come and finance projects in Africa with Egyptian experience, where we are well represented in the whole continent. So we shall continue in this way, and I think we have to expand 10 times what you are saying.
Well, yes, sir. Ambassador Bayoumi, also Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said that Egypt adopts specific policies to facilitate the Egyptian exports and the access to foreign markets, not only to Africa. What do you think are the most important policies and regulations that needs to be amended?
This is the new challenge we are taking, because we put a target to export $100 billion. Now we are a little bit more than 30. We want to expand our exports in order to make our trade balance a little bit balanced. Of course, our payment, balance of payment is quite good, but I'm talking about the trade in commodities. We still have to export more and more to the whole world, and Africa is a good chance also.
Well, yes. Do you agree that the African market is a promising market as its volume of consumption spending is increasing?
It is a promising market, but it's not easy, I must say. So it is a big challenge. We need to do a big effort in order to penetrate this market. It's not easy, by the way. And also Africa has to change many of its sectors. Here we have problems of traffic, of the transport in general. In banking system, it's not up to the international level. Bureaucracy is killing any investor who can come to Africa. Many challenges have to be changed, and I think Africans know what they have to do, but it's not an easy target, but we have to start, and I think we had good start since the chairmanship of Egypt to the African continent and the African Union in 2019.
Yes.
Let us start this road, because we have long experience behind us, and it's promising, and we have to continue our efforts.
Well, sir, Egypt aims to establish logistic zones in a number of important African countries, as well as raising the rates of trade and investment exchange. How could this be achieved, in your opinion?
It can be achieved, of course, and we have a good experience with our company in Africa, Al Nasra Company for Trade, and
Yes.
in Africa. I had the privilege to have one of its branches in Cameroon. But also, as ambassador, I promised Boutros Ghali, our minister, that every Egyptian embassy in Africa or anywhere in the world should be a sort of a center for trade. At
Yes.
least I can bring Egyptian commodities and make it available to my colleagues in other embassies. This is very easy. And I tried this. It was a very successful story. Bringing commodities from Egypt, foodstuff, canned food, carpets, and household effects. And we have to encourage our representative to do it. Also, what you are saying, to establish free zones in several African countries, a very good idea, and I am with it totally.
Yes. Well, would African countries lower both their imports and exports to Europe and Asia and work on improving the made in Africa products? Will this happen soon?
Yes, but you have a problem that after the occupation of Europe to Africa, now we have a source of economic occupation. I
Yes.
tried to import timber or some commodities from Africa. I discovered that it is totally dominated by foreign and especially European companies, where you cannot buy from Africa. You have to buy from the capitals of Europe, who are in charge of these fields of production. So if you talk about trade with Africa, this is my slogan now. If you want to trade with Africa, you have to start invest in Africa yourself. You want to buy wood or timber, you have to go yourself, establish your company, cut your wood, take it yourself, export it yourself, and to help Africa like that.
Well, sir, how do you view Egypt's leading role in the African continent in many fields, not only in the field of trade and investment?
We have many other fields. We have the field of experience and education. We have tens of thousands of Africans study in Egypt, especially in Al-Azhar al-Sharif. I witnessed many of these of those people coming to Cairo to have good education.
Yes.
Because also in Europe they are not highly welcome like before. So they see that in Egypt they live freely, they are most welcome. And around you, if you walk in the streets, you will realize that we have plenty of Africans in Egypt. The last figures, we say that we have 9 million guests from Africa and other Arab countries also. So we are for it, and I hope we can make a good story here of education, of exchanging experience, technical assistance. We have many doctors in Africa. We have engineers. We have teachers.
Yes.
Name it, you have good experience in the whole continent.
Sure. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former assistant to the foreign minister. Many thanks for your insight. And dear viewers, with this we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.